Rock music has always thrived on chaos, but some rock stars didn't just flirt with it. They lived in it, and sometimes they brought that chaos straight onto stage. These are the moments when legends took the spotlight not just tipsy, but fully wasted, slurring lyrics, stumbling over guitar riffs, or collapsing mid-song. For fans, it was part shock, part spectacle, and entirely unforgettable. In some cases, these drunken displays only added to the myth. In others, they marked a slow-motion fall from grace. From frontmen who couldn't remember their own songs to guitar heroes who smashed their instruments mid-performance. This is the wild, messy, and sometimes heartbreaking reality of rock and roll excess. Here are 10 rock stars who were always drunk on stage, and the jaw-dropping moments that proved it. When you think of Slash, you picture the top hat, the curls, the cigarette, and blistering guitar solos. But in the early 90s, Guns N' Roses tours were infamous for their unpredictability, especially when Slash had been drinking. At one show, he walked on stage already glassy-eyed, strapped on his Les Paul, and launched into Welcome to the Jungle, only to play in the wrong key. The band tried to follow, but it was a train wreck in slow motion. Slash didn't seem to care. Halfway through the set, his leather pants split wide open and he told the crowd, "My pants ripped and my balls were hanging out." The audience roared, but the performance was clearly sliding off the rails. Some fans loved the chaos. It felt raw, dangerous, and unscripted. Others saw a legend letting the bottle take the wheel. That night was proof that even the most skilled guitarist can't shred his way out of drunken mistakes. Motley Crue built its reputation on excess, but Vince Neil took it to dangerous extremes. At one show, he stumbled onto the stage so drunk he could barely stand. The opening notes hit, but Vince forgot entire verses, mumbling nonsense until the mic fans shouted lyrics back to him. Try and keep the song alive. At one point, Vince wandered off stage mid-set, leaving the band confused and the audience stunned. John Corabi, who would later replace Vince for a time, had to step in and help finish the performance. The crowd was half amused, half disappointed. This wasn't the wild, high-energy Vince they came to see. It was a man drowning in his own excess, struggling to even get through his own songs. For a band that lived on the edge, this was still a sobering reminder that sometimes the party doesn't end. It just swallows you whole. Jim Morrison's stage presence was electric, but when he was drunk, it could turn volatile. One of the most infamous incidents came during a 1969 show in Miami. Morrison arrived already wasted, slurred the first few songs, then stopped singing altogether. Instead, he ranted at the crowd, hurling insults and daring them to riot. "You want to see my ding-dong?" he shouted, sending shockwaves through the audience. The scene devolved into chaos. Fans surged forward, police swarmed the stage, and Morrison was arrested for indecent exposure. The Doors tours never fully recovered. For some, it was the ultimate act of rock rebellion. For others, it was self-destruction in real time. Morrison blurred the line between performance art and public meltdown, and that night in Miami remains one of the most notorious onstage disasters in rock history. Eddie Van Halen was a virtuoso, a guitar innovator whose riffs define an era. But by the time of Van Halen's 2004 reunion tour with Sammy Hagar, his drinking was spiraling. Fans began noticing the difference: missed notes, rambling stage banter, and uneven performances. Then came one unforgettable night. Mid-song, Eddie stopped playing entirely. He smashed his guitar into the stage, picked up the mic, and muttered, "You don't understand," his voice cracking. The audience stood frozen, unsure if they were watching an act or a breakdown. His bandmates looked equally stunned. This wasn't the fiery, confident Eddie they knew. It was a man unraveling in front of thousands. After the show, rumors spread about his health and drinking habits, and video clips went viral among fans. For many, it was heartbreaking to see a genius reduced to this. Eddie eventually sought treatment, but that moment remains a raw reminder that talent doesn't protect you from your demons. It just puts them under a brighter spotlight. Ozzy Osbourne's legacy is packed with outrageous stories, But his drinking turned some shows into unpredictable nightmares. Fans would buy tickets never knowing what they'd get: the razor-sharp Prince of Darkness, or a stumbling frontman slurring his way through the hits. Crew members have told stories of Ozzy firing people mid-tour in drunken rages, losing his place in songs, or completely forgetting set lists. At times, his intoxication made him fearless, like biting head off a bat, but other nights it left him unable to finish performances. One infamous concert ended after just 3 songs when Ozzy simply wandered off stage without explanation. To his fans, the unpredictability became part of the mythos. But behind the scenes, it was exhausting for those trying to keep the show together. Ozzy would later admit that he'd been lucky to survive those years. And looking back, it's a miracle some of those concerts happened at all. Five Finger Death Punch frontman Ivan Moody is a powerful performer, but his relationship with alcohol has caused unforgettable chaos on stage. He's admitted that he's performed entire concerts drunk, leaving him unable to remember a single moment afterward. One notorious show ended with him abruptly announcing that his mother had passed, only for it to later come out that she was fine. The audience was shocked, the band was frustrated, and Moody's reputation took a hit. Fans didn't know if they were witnessing a deliberate shock tactic or a man completely overwhelmed by his vices. It wasn't just embarrassment. This behavior signaled deeper personal struggles. His bandmates later pushed for intervention, and Moody eventually entered rehab, admitting that performing in that state wasn't sustainable. These incidents remind us that fame doesn't shield artists from their demons, and sometimes the stage becomes a dangerous mirror for what's happening behind the scenes. While his talent is undeniable, these onstage meltdowns reveal the human cost of performing at full intensity while fighting personal battles with substance abuse. Jefferson Airplane's Grace Slick was a powerhouse singer with an iconic voice, but her drinking sometimes overtook her talent. On a European tour, she took the stage visibly intoxicated, struggling to hit notes and slurring lyrics mid-song. At one point, she insulted the audience, turning cheers into stunned silence. The rest of the band tried to cover for her, but eventually, they refused to continue until she sobered up. Slick later admitted she barely remembered the concert and was mortified by her behavior. For fans, it was shocking to see a rock star at the top of her game lose control so publicly. These drunken performances weren't isolated incidents. They were a pattern, and they show how substance abuse can overshadow even legendary talent. While Grace's voice still captivated audiences, her erratic behavior off and on stage became part of her legacy, a reminder that rock legends are human, flawed, and sometimes dangerously self-indulgent. Keith Moon, The Who's legendary drummer, was infamous for his alcohol-fueled antics. On one particular night in 1973, he collapsed mid-performance behind his drum kit, leaving the band scrambling. The crowd watched in disbelief as Pete Townsend reportedly quipped, "Does anyone know how to play the drums?" Moon's partying wasn't just a hobby. It was part of his identity. He was known for driving cars into swimming pools, smashing hotel rooms, and showing up to concerts barely able to lift his sticks. While fans adored his energy and wild spirit, his drinking often jeopardized performances and safety. Yet Moon's talent shone through, even in chaos. His frenetic drumming, despite frequent inebriation, became iconic, and his offstage escapades only added to his legend. Still, these episodes were a cautionary tale. Brilliance and self-destruction can share the same stage, and Moon's career was a vivid example of how the thrill of excess can take its toll. Guns N' Roses' Axl Rose is notorious for arriving hours late to concerts, but his drinking added another layer of unpredictability. On multiple occasions, he would take the stage visibly drunk, launching into incoherent rants directed at the audience, security, or even his own band. Entire songs were skipped, while fans watched the frontman unravel in real time. Some attendees found it thrilling, the ultimate display of rock and roll rebellion. Others were frustrated, having paid good money for a chaotic spectacle. Axl's behavior wasn't just about alcohol. It was an outlet for frustration, ego, and years of pent-up tension. Despite these drunken rants, his vocal ability and presence kept fans coming back. but the unpredictability became a trademark. The line between performance and personal meltdown was blurred, leaving audiences unsure if they were witnessing genius, self-destruction, or a little of both. Liam Gallagher turned Oasis concerts into unpredictable adventures, fueled by alcohol and attitude. On stage, he often staggered, slurred lyrics, and insulted bandmates of the crowd, sometimes skipping entire verses. Fans never knew if they'd get a flawless performance or a drunken spectacle. One particularly chaotic tour had Liam refusing to sing mid-set, wandering off stage, and returning only to mock audience members. While his antics annoyed some, others saw it as part of his rock star charm, the embodiment of defiant, messy humanity. Liam himself shrugged off criticism, insisting, "It's just rock and roll." But the consequences were real. Cancelled shows, tense band relationships, and moments of sheer embarrassment broadcast across Europe. His performances were a roller coaster. Some nights brilliant, others disaster, but they cemented his reputation as one of rock's most unpredictable frontmen. From Slash to Liam Gallagher, these rock stars prove that talent and chaos often go hand in hand. Their genius created timeless music, but their drunken antics made history in a very different way. Fans remember the riffs and hits, but they also remember the stumbles, rants, and collapses. These stories remind us that behind the spotlight, rock legends are human, flawed, reckless, and sometimes their own worst enemies. Thanks for watching. If you love these backstage stories and wild rock and roll tales, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell